how did you finally learn to love yourself? What does that look like practically or tactically? How did you finally learn how to love yourself?
Caleb, it's an everyday thing.
Yeah.
I found love, and I continue to grow love for myself every day. And the number one tool I've given myself, well, I'm going to say two, is grace and forgiveness. I give myself an amazing amounts of grace to just because I'm a human.
Yeah.
And I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and I've been a toxic person, and I've had toxic traits. And the best thing that I've learned is there is nothing that I need to shame myself for.
Yeah.
And to just forgive and to choose to be better. And just in doing that the level of compassion has transformed my love for myself. And some days are hard. Some days I don't necessarily feel like I love myself. So it's an ongoing journey.
I love that answer. I spent a lot of my life trying to fit in a box. I spent a lot of my life trying to understand what the rules of acceptance were. I spent a lot of my life trying to appease people versus appeasing myself. And I would say probably this didn't really sink in until I was almost 40 years old, when I realized, like, God gave me gifts that are different than other people's. And it doesn't make me good or me bad or them good or them bad. God gave me gifts. And I spent a lot of my life like sequestering these things, like pushing them down, hiding them because it made other people uncomfortable. And what I realized after years and years and years of this battle back and forth is like, I really came to, and this sounds interesting for probably a lot of people, but I came to really understand what Jesus was about. I started to really try and like understand who Jesus was. And what's interesting is a number of years ago, I had a really cool, call it a revelation, call it an epiphany, where I was like envisioning Jesus, right? I've read the Bible dozens of times. I was an ordained minister. I get the whole game. But I saw Jesus as like a lot like me, in the sense that Jesus was a weirdo. I mean, for a lack of better words, he was an obscure man based off of the scriptures, if you will, and my interpretation of them and what I saw. He walked town to town to town speaking this message that was foreign to people, that a majority of people like pushed away. A majority of people said that he was a nut job, and a majority of people laughed at him. They mocked him. They threw shit at him. They kicked him out of towns. Like, yo, you're a fucking freak, man. Yeah. And all of a sudden I realized, I'm like, I kind of feel like Jesus in a lot of ways. I'm sharing these messages and I'm sharing these things. And back then they had, feather pens and papyrus and scrolls. And now I have a computer in my hand called a cell phone. We're both sharing these messages, and we're both doing what we feel compelled to do, which is what he did. And I realized, like, holy shit, like, if Jesus had tried to fit into the masses and not be obscure and not share what he did, he wouldn't be who he is. He wouldn't be a hero of all time, a true divine figure of salvation, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I took on this idea that perhaps I, in a lot of ways, am just like him, just living 2,000 years later. And so I started to really love who the fuck I was, and love these things that for many, many, many years I looked at as weird, obscure, odd, not fitting in, not part of the masses. And I started to really fucking appreciate these quote unquote weird things, these obscure things about myself. And like you said, it's gotten deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper as I become more and more and more in love with the process, in love with who I am, more connected to divinity. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Good answer.
That was a long answer to that question, but that was good, yeah.
We all have those gifts,
Yeah.
and I think it is to me, it's like I picked an archetype at a very young age of what normal was.
Yeah.
And I definitely picked the wrong normal for me.
Yeah.
Because I was never going to be that normal. And I realized that, like, that set me back.
Yeah.
So accepting our gifts is huge.
I think it kept, I don't want to say that it set me back, and maybe it didn't set you back, it just kept you closed. It kept you like hiding. Almost like, imagine again, I'm not telling you what to believe about Jesus or not, but I believe that Jesus was a man who came and had a divine mission, and he was so different because he listened to what was inside of him. He listened to the divine voice that came from his Father. And so whether you believe that or not is irrelevant. What I'm talking about is like this is a guy who felt compelled, was drawn to speaking something different than what everybody else was speaking. And I have felt for years and years and years odd that I share some of the things that I share, that I'm so open with my life, that I talk about things the way that I do. And it was really understanding him where I started to go, oh shit, like if these are gifts, then I would be like almost, you know, slapping God in the face for giving me these gifts. And if they're gifts, then why not be appreciative of them? Yeah. And I started to truly love them. For most of my life, I hated a lot of these things. I tried to shut a lot of these things off. Mm-hmm. And I started to really, really, really embrace the fact that these are gifts that God gave me. And so I'm going to use them. And dude, when you get to that place, in my opinion, when you get to a place where you truly love who the fuck you are, and you truly like have the ability to hear and to listen, dude, it's such a freaking magical place, because you not only are you experiencing such cool divine reality, but like you fucking love it. Mm-hmm. Like I love it. I love the weird. I love the obscure. I love these feelings where I'm like, whoa, for real? Like, you want me to go do this? You want me to say this? You want me to go talk to this person? I become infatuated with it. Yeah. I mean, I think that answers the question, but I want to kind of cap that off and encourage people to like really try and understand that, like, you might think you're weird, you might think you're odd, you might think that what you do, how you feel, what you say is this weirdness that makes you an outcast, but perhaps that's actually a beautiful gift. Mm-hmm. Perhaps that's exactly where you need to be, is an outcast, just like Jesus was an outcast.